before we find out who our next speaker is, let's find out the setting for our next speaker. Our next speaker will be speaking from an online class on Zoom. He's putting together an online class on Zoom, if I'm correct, and he's going to he's trying to work out the kinks and stuff like that. He's going to practice here with us today. Am I correct? Beautiful. Okay, so now, does stress and fear get in your way? Would you like to know more about mastering stress? Do you yearn to provide more for your world? If so, then you are in the right room. Because today's speaker is a certified HeartMath practitioner, wellness chiropractor, and he's a nature lover. Please welcome stress expert, author of Healing Verses of the Palms, and Andy Griffith, diehard fan, and a very good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Ventola. Put your hands together.
I love that. Thank you very much. Okay, just setting the stage. You're all looking at your computers, and you're on my Zoom session. Welcome, everyone, to our Stress Mastering Innate Heart Approach course. And this is a culmination of years of myself being a health practitioner, realizing how important it is for all of us to learn how to better handle our stresses. And just think about your day today. Like, so far, do you think you could have handled some stresses better? Raise your hand if you think that. Now, I put together this class not only to help others, but actually to help myself. So over the years, I've realized certain conditions I've had a lot to do with unaddressed, unresolved stresses. So during these sessions, I'm looking to see how I can help myself, but actually share what I know to help you address those stresses you've kind of put on the side that you haven't addressed. And they just seem to just fester and fester, and then they may come out reactive at times. So let's think about this. Now, in my work with learning more about stress handling, is that there's certain things I wanted to feel better with when I handle stresses better. So a word that comes to my mind that I've come to realize more in terms of the actual experience of is the feeling of tranquility in the work that I've done with learning more about handling my stress better. So I want you all to think now in terms of what would one word be that would describe your experience if you handled your stresses better. So let's start with.
I would have more joy in my life.
And let's do this too, since we're online here and we'd like to let's introduce ourselves so we get to know each other and we get a good foundation of our relationships together. So you can say your name and where you're from, and then that one word. Yes.
And one word?
Well, say your name and then where you're from, where you're calling in from, and then that one word to describe how you would like to feel if you handle your stress better.
Sandy from Atlanta, Georgia, and my one word is joy.
My name is Julie. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and my word would be balance.
Melissa Gordon from Atlanta. My one word would be serenity.
Christy from Atlanta, Georgia, and my one word would be peace.
Luat from South Cobb, and my one word would be productivity.
Gene Hammett, Atlanta, peace.
Think of your one word, and think of an experience in your life when you actually had that experience. Raise your hand when you have that. Listen. You have that experience? You remember a memory of having that actual experience of,
Of the word I said?
yes.
No, I don't.
Can you think of someone who may have be an example of that one word?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, look to activate that feeling in your own heart there. And let's do a little heart math exercise to begin even our sessions together. This is called a tool called attitudinal breathing. So think of that experience of that one word you had in the past. Upright yourself, put your hand over your heart. Focus first your feeling attention on your heart. So focus your feeling attention as if your attention is right on your heart. Let me know when you have that. Raise your hand when you do. Now think about breathing from your heart, slower than usual, slower and deeper. Now think of that feeling that you've activated, or that one word feeling. Think about that feeling, breathing that feeling in through your heart and out through your heart. Breathing in slowly and out through your heart. You kind of get the hang of that? Take your time. Okay. The class will help to allow yourself to experience that more. This class is more than just thought, intellectual work here. It's actually learning how to activate feelings in your heart, rather than just thinking about the feelings, but actually experiencing those feelings. And as we do experience those one words that we have an interest in, again, the purpose of this class is to help you better master your stress and experience greater health. With greater health, we can be greater productive in our lives. We can look to find greater fulfillment. We can find a greater flow. You've heard of folks being in the zone, sports folks there. Bill Russell would talk about that, being in the zone. Well, this course is all about assisting you to learn how to be in the zone, to actually feel that. So let's get started, and I look forward to our time. So that's my intro. Yes.
Thank you.
Just one minute. This is my picture. I've got a picture up here. And then I keep this picture close by since I'm a nature lover. So, you know. that's-
Perfect.
yeah.
You've got it going on.
Yes.
Great. Steve was talking about how sometimes when you're doing a webinar, you can feel like you're disconnected from your audience. And if you have your someone's there, someone special right there, you're looking right into their eyes, they feel more like a human and less like a computer. Okay, Jean, what have you got to say to Dr. Steve?
You want me to stand, right?
Yeah,
So I'm addressing him or addressing the audience?
a little bit of both.
It's a little odd to be brought into the online. I was expecting a speech, but I like what you're talking about. I think you have a very deep knowledge around this. In the very intro, I didn't really get a sense for the real problem. And I didn't get a sense of emotionally being pulled into it, like those moments of stress. And I think you said something about today. Like today, I slept late today. I slept till 8 o'clock, so I didn't have a stress today. I didn't have anything to do before I got here. So I would want to start off with a little bit more of the problem, so that people could connect into that. And I think the exercise was good. I got a little bit lost in there, but the other part besides the problem and really understanding why they're there and why this is so important and all that stuff is your story. You talked about it like at a surface level, but I didn't emotionally connect to your discovery of why this is important for you and for you to give this to others. And I think that would add to them they would start leaning into the message, because it is just a welcome, right? That was like 10 minutes.
Sure.
So those two things really clarify the problem for them, just remind them, they've already bought it, right?
Yeah.
So they bought it, but like, you bought it because there's something going on that really is aching at your heart, or aching at your mind, is preoccupied, you're distracted. All these things happen. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Delivery standpoint's fine. I think you're very soft, and that's just a natural way for you. But I want to feel more emotion. I think from you, so that you can evoke it within the audience.
Good.
Does that help?
Great.
Yeah.
Christy?
I think those were great comments, and it's interesting to get your perspective, Jean, because we've seen the cell, we've seen that piece of it, and I think I wouldn't have clued in that he needed to bring in more of that emotion again, but it's spot on. That was missing for me as well, and I think you don't necessarily want people to get engaged in these workshops because they're feeling bad in the moment, right? So this is about bettering your life overall, not about dealing with the surface level problem right now. So somehow connecting that lifelong feeling of stress or the way that you've handled things and taking a different approach is probably a good idea. I think that you could actually even in the future maybe record the breathing exercise and have that be an opportunity for you to take a break, because one of the things that'll happen if you've got longer webinars is you're going to get tired.
Yeah.
So to be able to take a break there and maybe a little music rather than silence for those of us who have wandering minds might help. I love that you're manifesting things in your space. I think that's fabulous. That's a lesson for people in and of itself, right? So I think that's part of kind of connecting to the heart or to the purpose. You kind of got to button up a couple of your main phrases in your intro. It shouldn't be quite as ad-libbed as it was today. I felt like we had addressed the stress you haven't addressed, or get better with handling my stress better, right? So there were a couple of repeated words in there that I think you could clean up if you just kind of did a couple more iterations, and you told great stories in the last presentation, so I think you can pull some of those in. Yeah.
Great. My biggest thing to offer you today is about directions. My second biggest is about energy. Others have already spoken about the energy, so I have one thing to say on that. Let me first talk about directions. We just have to nail the directions, because giving directions is about holding everybody. You can trust me, you can count on me, because in the first 5 minutes I've told you, I am organized, I get you, so I know how to say things, so you know how to follow what I'm saying. I don't have to say, oh yeah, but no, give your name, but no, give your this. So let it be a 1, 2, 3. And perceive yourself to be the master of everything that's happening in this moment. So I have mastery over my directions. I have mastery over the way I enter. Christy's comment, I just love the redundant words. And my comment is, nail your value prop, nail it. You're here today too, and you just get everybody on the same page. The thing about the energy, I don't know how you'll solve this equation, but you're something to do with math, hard math will tell you maybe. You're talking about de-stressing, and so you did the exercise with us to calm us and experience that. But at the same time, we want to feel like it's exciting to be here, not just I rolled over and here I am. So I think that first 1 minute is really important, that you are a professional speaker. Welcome everyone, welcome. Really pleased to have you here today, and there's got to be some pace and some energy that says we're moving forward. So I know mindfulness is about being in the moment, so I don't know what you do. We'll see.
Very good.
Yeah. What else?
On these, do people see you?
Yes.
Great, so I was pretending that I was seeing you on my computer screen,
Yes.
and it's that energy, because it makes you feel very stressed. You look stressed, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be listening to him, but he's very stressed at giving this talk, and if he can't be unstressed. But it's that right there, whatever that face is right there, That's what I'd love to see when you are presenting. So,
Yeah,
because,
in this forum here, I feel more stressed, but when I give a talk outside, like I'm so relaxed. I'm so glad for the feedback here.
yes, yeah, great, thank you.
I got, piggybacking on her comment, I got some feedback when I was practicing my speech for ProPath that it sounded like I was just performing the lines and I wasn't really feeling the emotion that goes behind those lines.
Yeah.
And I think that's really applicable to you here, is that, you know, getting yourself into the mindset of the emotion that you're trying to display. Instead of just saying these things, really thinking of something that puts you in that space. So for example, there's this part where I was to show energy, and they're like, I had changed my story, so I didn't really saw my speech, it was different, but I was talking about running shoes, and they're like, you don't care about running, do you? And I'm like, no, I hate to run. And then, you know, and she's like, think about it like it's tennis. I know you love tennis, pretend you're on a tennis court when you deliver that piece of it. And so pretend you're out of nature, or pretend something, so that you have that emotion that can be emanated in the way that it comes across on the screen.
That's perfect, that's perfect.
I have one last thing to add. You might consider too, Steve, if it's a little bit uncomfortable to be here, invest in something that allows you to stand, either a standing desk or something, you know, a boom mic, something that will actually allow you to kind of open up, because a lot of voice instructors will tell you that if you're sitting,
Yeah.
you're gonna compress your diaphragm a little bit, so you're gonna have a tough time kind of keeping your breathing at the right level. And there's a stance that you have when you're confident about what you're delivering,
Yeah.
and maybe standing up might give you that level of confidence. So that's something to consider.
Very good.
There's
Actually,
a thing that you can put on your desk that will make your computer go up and down, so it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of new desk. It can be a.
Can I make this one addition to that? Like when I was at a company one time and I needed to stand, I got a big box. I put my laptop on the box and I had a standing desk.
Hey, there you go.
There you go. Ingenuity. That's what you get here in Speaker
That's
Lab.
awesome.
thank you guys, that was
I
excellent.
recorded all of my episodes saying that.
I just heard a podcaster talk about that, and I think I'm gonna start doing it too. I think it's a
That's very
great idea.
helpful. I love it.
Thank you, Steve.